Good evening and welcome to Anime-Zing Radio here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm your host, Doug Engler. Joining me in the co-host seats, as always, are our good friends Miss Angela Rose
Hello, everyone.
and Mr. Darren Starling.
Yellow.
We also want to remind everybody that Anime-Zing Radio is brought to you tonight by Home Circle Media. For the latest and greatest in anime gear, everything from pens, pencils, stationery, puzzles, and officially licensed art books, be sure to check out homecirclemedia.com today or look for them at an upcoming convention near you. Their next convention, I believe, is Colossal Con East, coming up in 2 weeks in the Pocono Mountains. So be sure to get out to CCE and say hi to Gavin. Speaking of Gavin, we are honored to have him joining us tonight as our guest of honor.
Hey, glad to be back.
And hello to John Knight in the chat. So glad that you're in here. I know Ross will be in shortly. And also I remind everybody that we're brought to you by Triple S Lawn Care. If you're in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area and you're looking for lawn care, reach out to Triple S Lawn Care. Darren will hook you up with great work for a great price. Although spots, I think, are just about full.
Pretty much. I mean, granted, they've started to open up a little bit because of the lack of rain. We finally got a dry break, but of course, you can take on a lot when there's minimal rain, but once the rain rolls back in, then you realize just how limited you are. So it's that harmonic balance.
Definitely. But like I said, we are honored to have Gavin Goszka from homecirclemedia.com and also a very talented musician with Midnight Syndicate. Gavin, welcome back to the show. It's been a bit since we last chatted.
Yeah, I think it has been. Boy, hopefully it hasn't been over a year. I lose track of time, though, in between. It's like, just time flies.
It does, especially when you're busy. And I know that you've had a up and down busy schedule this year between music and keeping things stacked up for Home Circle Media and everything like that. Hello to Jeremy in the chat. Great to see you. Haven't talked to Jeremy in a while. Just got to see some new faces and some old friends, I think, popping in tonight.
Hello, Ross. Good to see you.
And for all of our new viewers out there who may not know who you are, Gavin, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Well, yes, I basically manage Home Circle Media, which sells anime accessories. We've been doing a lot with paper theater lately, on top of as Doug mentioned before, the official anime guide and art books, and kind of a little bit of this and that. We do a lot of trading goods at convention. So, from the little Pokemon terrariums that Remit does that are amazing. If you ever see those things in person, the detail that they use to create those things is just unbelievable. But kind of a little bit of this and that, a lot of things that kind of come and go really quickly. And then, music wise, Midnight Syndicate is my gothic Halloween kind of horror soundtrack project. That's we've been playing out at Cedar Point for the last several years. Unfortunately, will not be returning this year, which, hey, no regrets on that. I mean, we had a great run with them. Maybe we can do something in the future, but just tons of good memories. They were such a fantastic company to work for. But then on top of that, Parlor Muse is my Victorian music kind of little project that has been on hold for a little while. Subtle Inversion was something I did a while ago, featuring Vocaloid Megadina Luca. And always dabbling in something here.
You're always busy. That's the important
thing. I try at least.
Which is why it's so tough to get him on the show as much as we would love to, because we big supporters of our sponsors and really enjoy the support that you've shown us over the last 10 years. I think the last time you came on might have been our 10-year anniversary show back in April.
Yes, good. So it hasn't been a full year yet.
And looking through the Home Circle Media site, you've got a lot of really, really cool stuff up there. I was looking at the art books. I've bought a few art books from Gavin over the years. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to get to conventions like I used to. So my plan of trying to fill up the show by rock art book with autographs from everybody has kind of been put on a hold. But I got quite a few in there.
That's cool. Yeah, that'll happen with your career. It's it'll keep you moving.
John Knight in the chat says, Gavin, in case you didn't know, this year marks the 10th anniversary of Anime-Zing Radio. Gavin was there for the start of it.
I was.
He was there when we were in talks about should I do this or shouldn't I, and amongst many amazing people who helped give me the nudge I needed to be like, I can do this.
Yeah, and look at you 10 years later, still kicking it.
Still doing it. 2 amazing co-hosts. Got Roberto in the background.
God.
Pretty much.
A little story about the Roberto in the background. We were actually able to get Ladybeard on the show. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. He's part of a Japanese group called Babybeard.
Interesting. Okay.
They performed at Anime Boston. Ladybeard is an Australian cross-dressing, heavy metal singing professional wrestler living in Japan who was teamed up with 2 Japanese pop idol girl singers.
That is quite the combination.
Their music is fantastic. I don't know how it works so well, but it does. Angela and I were lucky enough to see them in concert in their first U.S. performance at Anime Boston, and then Ladybeard late in April came on the show as a guest. And
Cool.
when Angela's husband was walking through the shot, Ladybeard just called him Roberto out of nowhere, and that joke has stuck.
Yep.
And I know that you're getting ready for more conventions. As I mentioned, I know you're going to be at ColossalCon East in a couple of weeks. What can everybody expect when they come up to see you there?
Yeah, actually, we're doing Matsuri down in Columbus this coming weekend. So next weekend we'll be down there for that one. And then, Colossal East the following weekend, which we have been out to before several times as a company. I have never been. It was always, there's a conflict when we were playing out at Cedar Point. It was during rehearsal, so I always had to send a little crew out there. So looking forward to that. Actually, getting out to that Kalahari and seeing how that con runs. Lots of new products. You mentioned like some of the art books and stuff. We got in a rather large shipment midweek this past week, which I am still in the process of uploading. And we've got another one coming in hopefully next week. And just a lot of things that were kind of unexpected. Some of the Studio Ghibli paper theaters kind of came back out of nowhere. That was cool. The 2 Black Butler art books by Yana Toboso came back into print unexpectedly. I will take these things. And then we've been kind of getting into doing some of the dolls actually for Pretty Cure. There's been a line of those. They're actually like, with material dresses and everything and synthetic hair and everything. So that's been kind of fun. Trying to just get into some different things. We got some, I think they're, what the heck are they called now? They're from Code Geass. They're these lighted boxes basically that when they're not lit, it shows a graphic. And then when you turn the light on, it'll show like the rest of the key visual artwork. And they're really cool. So we'll be debuting those next weekend at Matsuri. So
that's awesome.
Few little hints of things,
And I have to ask, just because I am a big fan of the anime, any free run stuff?
I don't think so. Well, we had a paper theater for that. I think it was the only thing that I had in. That's back in stock again, but that is about it so far.
Ross in the chat is chatting with John Knight and bringing up that the parody horror movie series Scary Movie is getting a reboot and will come out next year.
Oh boy.
But why?
I don't know how I feel about that.
Same. Why?
I was just on YouTube checking out some of the reviews for the Crow reboot that just hit, and they're not good. I have not seen it, so I can't speak from personal experience. That was a movie that I would have absolutely left alone for many reasons, but there we are.
See, I don't think I've seen either one. But I feel like there's been enough time with that one where it's okay, fine to do okay, good do a remake. It's almost assuredly an almost new audience.
Yeah, I think the big kicker is if they're going to do something like bring something new to it. That's all fine. Like if they're going to kind of take it in a different direction or bring some new elements.
I mean, with the advances in technology alone in filmmaking, wouldn't that be enough? Or I don't know. That's one of those I can kind of see where they went with it. Scary Movie. I feel like is still. I feel like it's too soon, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens.
I guess they're just running out of ideas.
Yeah.
Which is another thing we've discussed a lot, actually.
It
But
seems like it's happening in all genres of media.
Yeah.
Movies, anime, a lot of.
I
Okay.
mean, even music.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, something works and it's familiar and a lot of times it's just easier to go with the formula than try and like be super innovative and stuff and risk, maybe it not working out that well. But I don't know. A lot of these reboots and stuff just don't seem to be working out that well. So
Like
Some
the
hit
reboot of A-Team was horrible. The reboot of Dukes of Hazzard was not as good as the original.
Hey, the reboot of Knight Rider wasn't actually terrible though. I will give it that.
I haven't seen that, so I can't speak on that.
and from the chat, John Knight wants to know, Gavin, what's your favorite band?
my favorite band, that's a tough one. I would say it's probably between Nine Inch Nails and a band called Porcupine Tree, which is kind of sort of half defunct right now. They came back like a year or two ago to do a tour, and they had a one-off album again after a while. But yeah, I've always been a big fan of prog rock in general. But
Interesting choices. I'm actually familiar with both.
Nice.
That said, Nine Inch Nails was kind of the one band from that era that I just never got into. Not my jam.
Yeah.
Extremely talented, just not for me.
That's cool.
I honestly thought Gavin was going to say Midnight Syndicate.
Yeah.
I was half expecting that as well.
Too shameless. Can't go there. Can't do
it.
Speaking of band, I got a random message from my friend earlier, and he actually met one of the people from a fairly famous band, I think from the 80s, earlier today while he was in an antique shop of all places.
Oh, wow.
And what band is that?
Twisted Sister.
Nice.
Wow.
He met Dee Snider.
That's pretty cool.
That's actually awesome. Fantastic. Not this year, but on a previous trip to Vegas, my husband, my mother-in-law, and my brother-in-law's wife actually got to meet Flava Flav in an Italian restaurant.
Nice.
I couldn't be bothered. I was being lazy and couldn't be bothered to get up. And there was food. There was still food on my plate.
Well, plus, when you're at a restaurant, they're eating. Sometimes it's like I don't want to be disrespectful and bug them during their meal.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what the deal. I don't remember what the deal was. This was a couple of years ago, but we also had an extended family dinner. Like there was, I think, 13 or 15 of us.
Wow.
My grandpa, before he passed away, I think this was like 2016, 2017, I forget what, he couldn't sleep one night. He was having insomnia, so he drove out to the gas station at like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Guess who he ran into?
Who?
Cena.
Nice.
And that was his Facebook profile picture up until he passed away. Him and John Cena.
Nice.
That's cool.
Let's take a moment. Says Ross. Let's take a moment of prayer for the Red Lobster locations that are closing.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, garlic cheddar biscuits.
That's exactly what he said. If the franchise goes out of business, guys, no more delicious biscuits.
And from Jeremy, Jeremy's comments, largely agreeing that reboots just don't work, sadly.
In anime, a few have, not very many though.
Bartender work.
I will say the two recent ones that actually did it for me. One was Bartender.
The other
and
was Trigun.
Yes.
And
Trigun Stampede was fantastic.
and it's kind of ironic. Fruits Basket was the one that kind of kicked off this trend.
Actually, yeah, Fruits Basket, the 2019 reboot, was really good. I didn't finish it, but from what I saw of it, it was really, really good.
I'll admit that I didn't watch that one.
I just heard its reputation. I mean, you took a show that delved from the manga, and then you actually adapted according to source material, and it's amazing how things change. And it almost makes you wonder if many of the anime had stuck to their source material, how much different they would have been.
Well, I figure something like Bleach would be what, half as long? I'm somewhat kidding. I also know there's a lot of filler.
Maybe Attack on Titan wouldn't have finished like it did?
Actually, no.
Or did that stay true?
Attack on Titan actually did stay true to the source material. I didn't read the manga, but apparently the manga went that off the rails.
Okay, so at least that stuck with the source material. To your knowledge.
To the best of my knowledge, which is but that's something I have.
And hello, Plutia and Kiyoshi. You changed the name a little bit. I don't think it was always Plutia. I think it was something else before Kiyoshi.
And their comment is, Tokyo Mew Mew reboot was a good one.
They're a huge fan of the magical girl genre.
See, I feel like the reboot, when they actually go back and do the let's do this as close to the source material as possible, I feel like those tend to turn out better.
I agree, but remember, the reason a lot of times they don't do the source material is because they want you to get invested into it. All anime was originally intended to do was promote source material sales. So a lot of times they give it like a different ending to make the people around you that knew the source material start chatting, hey, this isn't how it's supposed to be. That way it would actually encourage people to go and read and purchase the source material.
That's cool.
I
mean,
believe me, I get it.
I mean, for example, DxD Season 3 was an anime original ending, and if you weren't aware of the source material, it did a really good job. However, the people that knew the source material were not very happy, and that's the reason when Season 4 came around, they went back and basically retconned the second half of Season 3 to correct the storyline.
And then you've got Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
And then you also have Negima, which had it came out twice with two completely different storylines because if I remember correctly, some people didn't like how the original Negima the storyline went, so they went and redid it and changed things up a bit.
Interesting.
Gavin's here to get caught up on all the latest anime gossip because he's been so busy, he's been out of the loop.
A little while, yeah. Unfortunately, that happens. I get into these dry spells where you get tied up with everything else, and it's like, oh man, I feel like I'm so behind now.
I just think
Don't
Gavin
worry.
saw was Girls in Panzer, you know.
Not that bad.
Don't worry, Gavin. I didn't watch hardly anything last season.
Yeah.
I didn't have time.
And
Yeah.
that's me this season, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I haven't been watching much this season either because there wasn't a whole lot that interested me. That's how I found that Akineko I was telling you about. That's actually been really cute. I would recommend anybody to check it out. It's like a cute, wholesome little anime about cats that run a ramen shop. And hello, Winry.
And I also talked him into watching a show, and he actually binged it, so he must have at least pretended to like it.
I've enjoyed the 6 episodes I've seen in English of Russian so
Yeah.
far.
I just love how in that one scene in the Japanese version she's speaking English, and then in the English version she's speaking Japanese. That was just funny. But do you
John
speak
Knight
Russian?
John Knight in the chat says, Gavin, have you watched the Attack on Titan dub?
I bailed out of Titan about episode, I think I got through like 13. It was right when like Levi had come on board, who I really liked as a character, but I just did not connect with that show like at all, unfortunately.
I still never even attempted it.
And Winry says, hi, Mr. Gavin. Do you still remember me from the Plattsburgh Comic-Con? That is our other daughter.
Oh, yes.
She joined us for dinner when, that was the first time that we'd had Casey Create. I think at the time it was Casey Creations and Casey Fox and Home Circle Media at the same convention at the same time.
Yeah, that was a few years ago now.
Yeah, that venue's destroyed.
Yeah,
they leveled it before I moved out of there.
Interesting. Yeah, it was a good trip though. I mean, it was fun. We did a little side tripping on the way up there and stuff, and yeah, and good to see you guys again, of course.
Of course. Oh yeah, always fun to see you. That's why I'm hoping that my schedule works out and I have the funds that we can go to Colossal Con, even if it's just one day to pop in and say hi.
Yeah, just swing by the dealer's room or something, and yeah.
Jeremy is a friend of ours that lives up in Plattsburgh, New York area where I was living. He actually joined us for Kineticon one year. He's asking me if I'm happy to be out of New York. Yes and no. I've always loved Pennsylvania, love the areas out here. But I do miss some of the friends that we had up in New York, and being able to make more conventions working for the dealership as opposed to the railroad was nice. But you got to take the good with the bad. It's always tough to relocate to a new area, and every time it offers new challenges. I'm sure everybody can relate to that.
Right.
And I know, Gavin, you said that you haven't been able to watch much, but have you been able to keep up with at least some of the anime news out there, different shows that are going on?
A little bit. I'll run across some names of things, just whether I'm looking for new products and stuff or just out on the web and stuff. I'll see some names of things, but yeah, unfortunately, I just haven't had a chance to really, even like test the waters on things. I used to like try and at least watch an episode or two and see if it was something that I wanted to continue with, but yeah, it's been a little while. I think the last thing I watched was that Call of the Night, which was really good, but it goes back a few months.
That goes back a couple of years.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as like when I watched it, but yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's,
I'm glad you enjoyed Call of the Night. That's one that my wife and I enjoyed. I think, Darren, you enjoyed that one as well.
Indeed.
Angela did not like the storyline, but she agreed with everything we said about the art and the music.
Yeah, great tunes.
Creepy Nuts is a fantastic band.
Yeah, they are.
Agreed.
Yeah, they're something else.
And I know that's one thing that you've always enjoyed too from the anime side of things, is you've always enjoyed the music. We were even honored to have you come on and play live for one show.
Yeah, that's actually how I got into all of this to begin with. I discovered the shows kind of like almost secondary. Back many years ago, myself and my partner in Midnight Syndicate, Ed, were at Gen Con, I think it was. And in the program book, they had a full page ad for Witchblade, the anime. And I had been a fan of the TV show. And I'm like, okay, let's see what this is all about and stuff. And I ended up just like totally binge watching that. I love that show. And I got to go back and rewatch it, in fact. But that kind of opened the doors to not only anime, but then the music. I really love the opening and closing songs from that, which were done by a band called Psychic Lover. So I was out on the internet kind of looking for that, like, where do I get this stuff, and happened across an internet radio station, started tuning in, and it just kind of went from there. Like, as soon as I got introduced to the music in a bigger way, I just absolutely fell in love with it. There was like a period of a couple of years where like that is literally all I would listen to. And then I started doing guest appearances at some of the cons. And speaking of which, that's been one of my little projects lately, is going through my hard drives and resurrecting all my old anime performances and remastering the audio. And I have video for some of them. That's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, it's, some things are definitely, you always get those performances where you're like, wow, I didn't think it was that bad, but I guess it was kind of not that great. And then there's the ones that are like, oh, that was pretty decent, So, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And revisiting this, I used to try and vary up the set list, like literally every show that I did, which was an idea I stole off of Pearl Jam. They used to do that with their live shows. But basically every time I'd play, I'd either switch the order, switch the songs, start bringing in new songs, and just keeping it fun, keeping it interesting and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, and Gavin, John Knight in the chat asks, "Have you watched the show by Rock English dub?"
I have not seen that. I know you've highly recommended that. It's just one of those that's on the list that I just haven't gotten to yet. I honestly, I still haven't gotten to Spy Family yet either, which is kind of sad. I mean, considering we sell a lot of merch for that.
Oh, and what's funny about Show by Rock is that's one of the few shows that all of us actually watch, since Angela and I kind of enjoyed the opposite sides of the spectrum for everything.
That's cool.
Yep, that we do.
And Darren's kind of the middleman. He watches stuff that Angela will watch, and I don't watch the stuff that I like that Angela won't watch. And Winry in the chat also says the Ground Around, the restaurant that we had gone to when you were up in Plattsburgh, it's gone. It's now a bank.
Oh, interesting. I was surprised to actually find one of those. They used to have them down here in Ohio, like all over, but that was like years and years ago. Like I'm talking like 20 plus years ago, and they all kind of went away. So that was unusual to see that.
Yeah, there used to be one up here too. I remember going to a Ground Round, but again, 25 years ago.
Yeah. Those, I remember they used to allow you to throw the peanuts on the floor, like the peanut shells. They used to serve peanuts at your table. And like people used to throw them on the floor, which I guess is probably not a great health thing, but
No.
I think Texas Roadhouse did that too.
And we also had one called Moonrunner Saloon around here, and I think it was still a thing. I'm not sure if it lasted past COVID or not. I know up to COVID they were still doing it.
And when we're in the chat says Show by Rock is the best anime ever. We did introduce her to a few different shows that were age appropriate for younger kids, and Show by Rock is definitely one of those.
That's cool.
Which, fun little plug. Not sponsored by Crunchyroll, but if they want to sponsor us, we're open for negotiations. But they have dropped Show by Rock Stars in Japanese and English now, so they now have all 4 seasons of Show by Rock.
Cool.
Which I did go and binge watch because I'd been wanting to watch that, and they've been still slowly working on getting all of the Funimation library transferred over. And that was one of the more recent additions. Also, while we have a moment, I want to throw a big congratulations out to our friend Skylar McKinley, who just had a baby earlier this week.
Congrats.
Cool.
And I forget what her voice acting name is now, because we had her on before she got married. But she is a very talented voice actress, and I'm just drawing the blank now because I've seen her for years now as Skylar McKinley, and that's what Skylar McIntosh. That was her stage name. So, congrats on having another baby earlier this week. Sailor McKinley, happy and healthy.
So Winry says, I have to go, but just wanted to pop in and say hi to you guys and Mr. Gavin after all these years.
Oh, very cool.
And Ross, Overlord the movie is coming to the States later this year. And that I need to go back and finish.
I need to finish season 2 and 3 and then 4. Good Lord, there's so much stuff out.
Yeah. And then my watch list is just going to get worse because we did the countdown and it's 54 days from today is my flight to Tokyo.
Wow. Your next trip.
That's my next trip.
So I guess I have to get the thinking cap on of, okay, is there anything I want?
Yup.
Or that I can afford.
That could be a long list.
Is there stuff I want? Yes, but what's feasible?
Don't even say afford right now.
Darren doesn't want to hear the word Ford.
No, I said afford, not. You know what? Never mind.
Bum. Next, John, don't remind me that next week is Labor Day. That's kind of like the unofficial end of summer.
Yeah. Oh, tonight is the end of summer because for our kids, they start back tomorrow.
My daughter starts back to school on Tuesday.
Ross, I did see that announcement. Borderlands 4 is coming out probably next year.
Hopefully it's better than the movie was. I heard a lot of people complain about that.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
People complain about anything.
I've heard a lot about it, and subsequently I did not go to see it in theaters. I'm gonna wait until it's on streaming for free and I can watch it on my nice big screen TV and not pay any money.
With Roberto.
I suspect that is very possible I'll be watching. There is a very real possibility I'll be watching that one alone. But the games haven't disappointed me yet.
I still find it interesting that, what started everything for AZR was getting the chance to interview Jeremy Lee, the voice of Gage from Borderlands. And that was the first voice actor interview I'd ever done. And due to the popularity of that,
you broke the chat.
We did. Yeah, Scott Harris still can't believe that we actually crashed the chat. Over 1,000 people were in the chat room that night, and I can still remember there were people in there from Norway and all over the world. One person said it was 4 a.m. where they were at, and they had to get up for school in a couple of hours. We're like, well, thank you for tuning in, but you got to go to bed. School's important.
And then in the chat, John Knight says to Gavin, do you collect anime Blu-rays?
Yeah, I mean, I do have I've got a little bit of a library building. In fact, I just picked up both seasons of Code Geass today. I found them at my local, it's called The Exchange. It's like a used CD place. They sell a bunch of stuff, but they had both seasons there. I'm like, I will be happily taking those. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'll usually buy the shows that I would want to rewatch, or just want to own. But another fun thing has been Sentai has sales every once in a while. Big one is at the end of the year, and I've just gotten into this thing of like looking for things that are like kind of cheap. And if the description sounds interesting, I'll buy it and see what it's like. And most of the time, that's led to some really, really good shows. Yeah, that's always a fun thing to do.
And knowing the connection we made early on, back on the good old Crossing the Void radio days, of I have to ask, how many volumes of Girls in Panzer do you own? Because I know that they had, a couple of seasons. There's the movie and a bunch of like shorts and OVAs.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's a good question. I know I don't own them all. I mean, I definitely own the like Der Film, of course, the regular seasons. I think the OVAs, one of the volumes of them, I don't know if they've done multiple volumes, but I know there's some things that I'm missing. I think I got the Anzio Real Tank Battle one. Yeah, I know there's a ton of that, though.
You were the one that introduced me to Girls in Panzer, and then I ended up going to Bakuretsu-Con up in Colchester and was able to win it in a charity auction for like $40. And cool. I think that was 2 weeks before it was actually going to be put on sale, because they had David Williams from Sentai who had an early copy of it for viewing. I was able to buy it. And I think cool. I had almost like $200 set aside for it because I wanted it that bad.
Yeah, that was a good show. What caught me about that initially, I kind of went in like not expecting that much, but the way they did the visuals, and the fact that it was like done in like a first person kind of thing, I'm like, this is cool.
And then they drifted a tank.
Yes, that's true. I mean, it ended up being a really, really good show just on a lot of levels, but like sometimes it's maybe the silliest thing that catches your eye about something and draws you in. And I'm glad I watched that. I mean, it was still one of the better shows in that genre,
Oh yeah, right up there with the Strike Witches and World Witches franchise.
Yep.
And Ross,
there was another one. I finally got back to watch the Brave Witches. That was a DVD purchase that I just made, and that ended up being really good too.
That was really good. I enjoyed that. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed that. I then come to find out that I think one of the main girls from Brave Witches was voiced by our friend Michaela Krantz, and I had no idea it was her until I want to say it was Vermont Comic-Con that we were at the convention together, and I happened to notice on her sign that she had that character. I'm like, I didn't know that was you. She's like, really? I think that's a character that voice. It sounds the most like me. I'm like, I didn't think so, but
that's cool.
Ross in the chat says that Katie Siegel, who played Peggy in Married with Children and Leela in Futurama, and the guy who played Dr. Suresh, the guy who painted the future in NBC's Heroes series, will be in season 2 of One Piece Live action series.
Wow.
Yeah, they've been announcing the season 2 new cast additions. I looked that up because I got curious, because Heroes was the first season was a favorite of mine back in the day. And also there's other new casting for that as well, so that's going to be a look forward to seeing, because that is a live action adaptation that is bar none one of the best I've seen.
That's cool.
And I've been playing around a little bit on more on the Home Circle Media site. In fact, I'm just going to share the window so everybody can see what Gavin's got for sale.
Oh boy.
Yeah, especially in the paper theater, which you were talking about. That's been a big thing for you the last couple of years, was the paper theater stuff.
That just, it really exploded, and I'm so glad that they've come out with as many as they have. Oh, that Cardcaptor Sakura one that you're showing in the center, that's one of the first one. Yeah, that one. It's one of the premium line ones that they started doing. They have a One Piece and the Cardcaptor, and hopefully they'll be doing more of those. They are huge. They are wood style, so it's kind of like a balsa material instead of paper. They tend to be a little bit on the pricey side, but if you're into paper theater, they're really cool.
A lot of Demon Slayer stuff. I see a Detective Conan.
Yeah, some of those, like the Detective Conan, I think that's one of the double-sided ones. There's an Evangelion one that's going to be double-sided. They're doing some really neat stuff with paper theater.
There's the free run one that currently is out of stock on the site.
Yeah, okay, so it is out of stock. Lots of JoJo, yeah. Yeah, the Miku stuff came back in too. That's the Snow Miku for 2024. There's a couple of other ones. I think probably at the bottom of our listing.
The one that caught my eye and I was kind of surprised at is the Love Live Superstar one.
Yeah.
I
That's
really
a large
enjoyed
one
the
too.
series. I really enjoyed that series. In fact, I think that's probably, if I were to rank the four different Love Live shows, I would put Superstar second behind the original.
I haven't seen that. I watched the original, which I was thoroughly impressed with. I knew the music was going to be good going in, but the story ended up being like really, really good. I couldn't do Sunshine right after it. Like usually I'll have to take a break from, say I'm watching an Idol show, I'll have to like go into something else just to like break it up. So that one, I like tried to watch it and I kind of like, it was like, it's kind of very samey. So I'll have to get back into Superstar though.
Sunshine, I would put third behind Superstar, and then that Nijisaki High School, I can't even pronounce it. I couldn't even finish, like, I think my wife and I tried to watch it, and I think I've tried to watch it a couple of times, and I've gotten maybe 4 or 5 episodes in and couldn't finish it, unfortunately. And I love the Love Live franchise. The music is really good. I just couldn't get into that one.
Yeah, yep.
And I know that one and Superstar have season 3s either have already come out, or Love Live Superstar season 3 will be coming out next season, I think. So in the fall.
Oh, cool.
So I would definitely say give it a shot, because I really like the storyline. I like how they change things up with Superstar.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of them. Because like, as you can see here on the paper theater, there's only 5 girls instead of the normal 9. And that's, so I can tell that season 1, season 2 more come in. So I like the way they added people in slowly, as opposed to here's just everybody at once.
Yeah, like the bigger group. Yeah, that's cool.
Other paper media that everybody can see that's on the site. Plus, as you said, Gavin, you got more stuff that's coming in that's not up there yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of just break out my inventory list here and see if there's anything interesting I can mention. We did get in some new art books beyond the old ones, like the Black Butler ones are restocks. We got Spy Family, we got Chainsaw Man. What else did I get in?
From the chat, Ross wants to know, Gavin, have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine yet?
No, that I'm gonna have to break down and do that though. That I've heard nothing but good stuff about that.
I will say, if you enjoy the MCU movies at all, it is fantastic.
Yeah, and I do. So yeah, that's a must. That's a must see.
And then Jeremy says he's getting a storm, so he's gonna leave before they lose power.
Oh wow.
Stay safe. Stay safe.
Yeah,
Definitely.
seriously.
And John Knight says, Gavin, what's your favorite dubbed anime?
Favorite dubbed anime, boy. Okay, well, I know one of them is the one I just bought today, which is Code Geass. For me, Johnny Young Bosch is Lelouch. Like it's rare to find a voice actor that just embodies a character like for me to that extent. And I know he's been in a ton of other stuff. He will always be the voice of Lelouch.
I have not seen Code Geass, but that's reasonable.
Yeah, there's a few of them though. Like Steins Gate was really good in dub. That's actually the only way that I got into that show. I started watching it in sub, and it just didn't click for some reason. And then I switched over to the dub, which is the opposite of what would normally happen. And I'm like, all right, I'm into this.
That's a show I need to go back and watch.
Steins Gate, that's so good.
It is. Did you watch Steins Gate 0?
I've not.
I'd say neither did I. I watched Chaos Head. I watched Chaos Child. I watched Steins Gate. I didn't watch Robotic Notes, and I didn't watch Steins Gate 0.
Yeah, I own Chaos Head actually, but I didn't watch any of the other ones. other than
Hey,
Steins Gate.
well, you're about to say you do know that they all take place in the same universe, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
Now, are there any shows that you've heard of that have come out recently that you would love to sit down and get a chance to check out? Or I know you
Um,
mentioned Spy Family is one of them that you haven't seen yet, but
yeah, that's probably the biggest one, just because it sounds like it would be something I'd really enjoy. I don't know. You talked about that Bocchi the Rock, which sounds kind of interesting.
I think you would enjoy the music of, like, I know where you enjoy a lot of the music of anime and stuff. That's why it was like the things that pop into my mind for you to check out include like Bocchi the Rock, Show by Rock, the Love Live franchise, just because of how much you enjoy music and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy like the nonsensical animes too, or?
It's got to be like a certain combination of things. Like I really loved. I just saw the DVD for today. What was that? Bento. That was fun. Saga Gabu. Boy, I'm butchering the name.
Saga
Yeah, Survival Game Club. That
Yes.
was cool.
That even though I haven't seen it all, I've seen clips, and that's one of my friend's favorite animes. So
that
I am very well aware of how crazy that one gets.
And
we got lucky with that because this was down at Nashicon, which I don't think exists anymore. They were like on a long standing hiatus. I don't know if they'll come back at some point. They were actually showing anime in the dealer's room, and that was one of them. And I'm like, this is great.
and this is a related question from Ross. What is your favorite anime genre?
Ooh, boy. I don't know if I can say I have one because I love magical girl stuff. I mean, I guess maybe I lean more towards that direction. Love the idol, side of things. Horror, like Higurashi was one of my favorite shows forever and a day.
If you like Magical Girl and you like horror, if you
Madoka?
haven't, no. If you haven't, check out Wonder Egg.
I own that.
I absolutely loved that.
Yeah, totally underrated show. I don't think anybody like saw that or like knows about it and stuff. Yes, it is. It's very cool.
I absolutely loved it. I did not realize it was that underrated.
Yeah, I just don't hear about it. We've had merch for that. Like I've had playing cards, and I've had them like in stock forever. Like nobody buys anything. Like nobody asks about it. It's once in a blue moon somebody will be like, "Oh, you have something for this,"
Yep.
Yeah, I went back and watched Magical Girl Sight a little while ago. That was a tough rewatch. It was a tough watch the first time. It's just really, really brutal. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
The last I watched two Magical Girl ones. The last brutal one was Magical Girl Raising Project.
Raising Project is good too. Sight though, it's just, man, they take it to another level. It's so close to reality. It's like maybe a little too close at times.
And
sorry. Here's one for you, Gavin, and you need to check this one out. Just because it's an off the rails Magical Girl, it goes hard, but in all the wrong ways. And that's Gushing Over Magical Girls.
What is it called?
Gushing Over Magical Girls.
Okay.
And Ross in the chat says, if you like horror, check out My Home Hero. I will actually second that. That was a really weird one.
Okay.
But definitely well done. And then he also says best magical girl is Spec Ops Asuka.
I haven't seen that. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
And then John Knight is asking, Gavin, what do you have any dubbed anime recommendations?
Man, I don't know. I'm so reluctant to recommend anything in anime because it's so personal. Like, I've been hyped about shows and told some people like, hey, you got to see this, and they've been kind of like, oh, it's okay.
See, I'm at the point where there's very few shows I will just blanket recommend.
Yeah.
There's certain shows that I would recommend to specific people.
Yep.
based on what I know of their taste
Yep.
in other media.
I mean, I guess, if I had to pick some, if you're into these genres, you cannot beat Death Note for just the sheer magnificence of its plotting, like how well thought out that is and how well everything connects. It's unreal. Steins Gate is probably the best time travel anime that I can think of.
Yeah.
And again, Code Geass for if
Um,
you're into like the mech side of things, and just for Lelouch's character and how he maximizes one ability.
And Winry has now got Ross saying, Mr. Gavin, if you could give a classic anime a modern remake, which anime would it be?
Oh man, classic. Oh man, how far
Uh,
are we going back?
I was that was going to be my question, was how are we defining classic, because I actually have an answer to that.
Yeah, how are we defining classic?
Well, we wait for Ross to define classic. John Knight in the chat says Death Note dub, Code Geass dub, and Steins Gate dub are all on his radar.
Yeah, nice.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna define classic as before the year 2000.
Okay.
Just for me. And if I could give one show a modern remake, for me, that would be Serial Experiments Lain.
Ooh, love that show.
Same. That's one of the first shows I watched start to finish.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could go back and rewatch it today.
I
haven't tried.
I think I would go with something off the wall like Golden Boy. I think it would be educational.
Given what Lain was, I'm curious how they would do that today.
Yeah, given the technological differences, how much farther that could go.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see. I love that. I love the original, but yeah, that would be interesting to see.
And then he says for him it would be Mabruha. I'm butchering this pronunciation. Maburaho or Magicano. Let them have cell phones.
Magicano was actually fun. My friend showed me that one on a whim.
I mean, there are some classics you shouldn't necessarily mess with, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it gets into that whole realm of like why did you like the original to begin with? Kind of like it worked in some way that I wouldn't want to mess with that.
Also, I think sometimes it's where are you at in your life when you discover these shows, and they just hit differently because your mind frame and your experiences going on at the time, it just resonates more back. Like Inuyasha at the time was like the perfect gateway anime for me to get into anime. But going back and rewatching it now, it's like not as good as I thought it was. I think it's more of the nostalgia anime than anything else.
Okay, Ross fixed his typing. Maburaho. And that's exactly it. Like, I watched a lot in my teens and early 20s that I don't know if I would watch today. And then getting shown stuff at over 30 that like so many like people were surprised that I had never seen it, and then it's like, oh yeah, this is okay.
And then she still needs to go and sit down and watch Vending Machine.
No, I'm not watching Vending Machine. No, Doug, that one I will not.
I know, I just like teasing you.
You just like the reactions because Speaking of reactions, so I ended up the story of Token with the Dead came up recently. I ended up sharing that story with one of my friends and from up here, and even he was like, "Yeah, no, Plymouth is not Boston."
Every now and then, I'm able to get some really good reactions out of Vange. And on a side note, talking about gushing over Magical Girls, that was a Sentai Filmworks title, so you probably will be able to see it on one of their sales at some point.
Cool.
And Ross in the chat says, "How about My Bride is Mermaid modern remake, Doug?"
I don't know. I remember I watched it, and I remember the stupidest thing that stands out the most to me was in the first 10 seconds, I knew Todd Haberkorn played the main character because of the scream. And that's about as much of it as I remember. Because he had a scream, it sounded like Skune from Rosario Vampire, and I went, "Oh, that's Todd." And that's as much of it as I really remember. I would have to go back and rewatch it before I could give a truly honest answer. And that's no knock against Todd. I mean, we absolutely love Todd Haberkorn, and he's been a good friend to this show and Crossing the Void Radio from years past. Even Gavin got to sit in on some memorable moments with him.
Oh yeah, good times.
That's still crazy to think of.
Yeah, I was surprised he remembered that. I mean, I guess it was only like the weekend or week before, but I was at a con that he was at right after that whole thing, and I told him who I was and stuff. He goes, "Oh yeah, that was great." I'm like, cool, you actually remembered it. Good.
Yeah, he remembered us because it'd been a while since we've talked with him, and then right after COVID, he was a guest at Kineticon down in Hartford, and so I was actually able to get his autograph and meet him in person for the first time. And when I told him who I was, he's like, "Oh my God, it's so great to finally meet you!" And
oh, that's cool.
And swapping gears just a bit from the chat, Ross is offering a fresh anime recommendation, and one I will also second. Gavin, the recommendation is A Sign of Affection. It is a really, really, really well done romance anime.
Okay.
It's a romance slice of life. It is so well done. I absolutely loved it.
Cool.
And from the Peanut Gallery, it is actually not a high school romance, but a young adult romance.
Okay.
College and college age.
So it's A Sign of Affection?
Yes.
Okay. Duly noted. Thank you.
I do notepad. He's writing everything down.
Yeah, right. I do really enjoy the sad anime for some reason. I don't know what to say about that.
Oh,
but the shows like Plastic Memories and Planetarian and just some of those are my favorites.
I'm coming. My taste is so all over the place.
Yeah.
Another one that you might like, Gavin, is Mushoku Tensei. I think we've talked about that before. I actually finally sat down, watched it, and I think I binged season 1 in a short span of time.
Cool.
It actually was really good. Season 2 was really good, and I'm excited to see where it goes. It was only like a year plus that both Darren and my wife were like, "You need to watch this. You're the isekai trash guy, and you haven't seen the best isekai."
Really?
I don't know if I'd call it the best isekai, but it is really good.
And I'm just shaking my head at just how much isekai there is and how much of it is not good.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say bad because I'm fairly certain the overwhelming majority of the isekai that's out there falls under just meh.
Yeah. I think it comes just down to the fact of everything now has been so cookie cutter.
Yeah,
it's cookie cutter, and
shonen runs into this. Shonen for the longest time had the same issues. And we're finally getting past that because there aren't as many.
Yeah, it seems like the market's getting oversaturated with isekais, and me being isekai trash, even I'm like, I need a break from isekais, which I think that's at the time why I fell in love with Freerun so much, was because it gave you the fantasy aspect from a different perspective, but it wasn't an isekai for once. It was just a pure fantasy.
I'm serious. Watch Delicious in Dungeon.
Is that the Netflix one?
Yes.
I don't have Netflix.
I shake my fist at you for that.
When
But
it came time for
that is-
budgeting and cutting
okay.
some costs, that was one of the things we gave up.
That is an anime that's one of the very few that I literally will recommend to everyone.
That's how I felt about Freerun. I think that would touch the basis for just about everybody who enjoys anime.
And
Ross is saying, I don't know if you've read this already about My Happy Marriage. If you want a sad anime, check out My Happy Marriage for Heartbreak.
it is so that one hits all the feels.
Yeah. Okay, I'm in. Writing down.
That was a very emotional. Like, there were episodes where I cried. It hit all the feels in all the right ways.
Nice.
And to your question, John, I can honestly say Gavin has not seen Sign of Affection dub because we just recommended that to him tonight.
Yep.
Another good one for the feels and a really good story. Apothecary Diaries.
Okay, my list is growing here.
The wife actually just binged that over the last couple of days. I think my last trip to Jersey earlier this week, she binged, I think it was like 24 episodes in 2 days. She's like, don't judge. I'm like, I can't judge. I've done the same thing.
Apothecary Diaries, so good.
She said I might even like that one.
You might. You might not. Either way, the opening to season 1 is a really good song.
Oh, cool! Even better.
The opener to season 2 was not as good, and therefore we were disappointed when it swapped. But
yeah, that was like me with the Witchblade switch up between like season 1 and season 2. This ridiculous. I forget what the song was even called, but it was like this really goofy. Like, it didn't fit the tone of the anime at all, and I'm like, no, bring back XTC.
I'm not even saying it didn't fit. It was just not as good. It just didn't hit the same.
Yeah.
Night, Roberto.
That's never gonna die.
It's not. Just because we don't have Angela on the show.
You mean Julia?
Yeah, Julia. Sorry. You knew who I meant.
I did. And the funny thing is, I have a sister named Julia, and my mother has done that to us on more than one occasion.
Oh, I'm sure.
But, oh God.
The fun never stops. I'm kind of looking through Crunchyroll right now, the shows that I'm watching, see if there's anything else that
what week are we on for the current season?
Let's see. I just watched VTuber Legend. Most recent episode was episode 8.
Okay.
And episode 6 dub just dropped, so I'll have that to watch later this week with my wife. VTuber Legend, you might enjoy, Gavin. They do sing in that. It is different. One thing that really struck a chord and I noticed is they focus on the VTubers in their VTuber outfits and icons. You don't get to see what the people actually look like in real life. it adds to the whole lore of, okay, these are VTubers. You fall in love with the characters. You never really get to see the face reveals of the people and stuff. And even like when the main character goes to the company headquarters, anybody who's not a VTuber just appears as like a 2D cutout person. You don't see without a head. Like you don't even see a circle for the head. You just see this body kind of walking, and you hear the voices.
Interesting.
So it's a whole different aspect, and the title of it is VTuber Legend: How I Went Viral After Forgetting to Turn Off My Stream.
There are, I will say, there's more and more animes coming that I'm finding out about that get into the different industry subsets.
Interesting.
And the ones that I've watched are actually really well done because last season, Doug and I watched Voice Actor Radio.
Nice.
And that was actually really good. It was nothing like we thought it was going to be.
Not that I'm even sure what I was expecting in the first place. But that one was really well done. There was enough.
This is just an example of some of the characters. The main character is in the dress over here. This girl is responsible for the art for this character. Like these are all appear as VTubers on the show, so you don't get to see what they look like behind the scenes.
Gotcha. That's cool.
That's not part of it.
And then there's one actually from the people that did Death Note. There's a show, they did a show called Bakuman that was basically about a manga writer.
Oh, cool. Doug, I don't think I ever told you this story, but we usually the last weekend of our Cedar Point shows, things used to get a little off the rails. We'd introduce things into the show, whether they were slight variations in music or other little factors. And I forget what year it was. It might have been 2018. I have this iKizuna plushie, and I decided to bring it up on a stage and hide it in my keyboard rig. So I was actually watching the Midnight Syndicate show from within the vines and tentacle-like branches of my keyboard rig's dressing. And I actually posted a photo of that on Instagram, and it was liked by the official fan club, which I loved. That just did it for me. I'm like, yes, they know about it.
That's awesome. I know the feelings because I remember when we did our first like anime special of New Game, and we had Megan Shipman. It was voices of Alba, her best friend, and then the blonde girl. I think the blonde girl was voiced by. Why am I blanking on the names now? But it was our New Game special. And I remember doing promotions for it. And I looked on Twitter, and the producer of the anime shared our link on his social media. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never talked to him. I've never met him. He found out about it from Megan Shipman, I'm guessing. And like was highly promoted the podcast and stuff. I was like, oh my God.
That's cool. Yeah, that was like one of those like out of character. It's just like you have to laugh at it. It's like Midnight Syndicate, VTuber. These two worlds were not meant to collide, but they are colliding.
We've been lucky enough to have some VTubers on, not like hugely well-known VTubers, but some local VTubers from the New England area have come on. Mink the Satyr, and then my friend Rob. He hasn't been streaming as much lately because of work. Also, our friend Justin Hamburg started doing some VTuber stuff here and there as well.
That's cool.
Would love to get some of the more well-known VTubers on the show to find out more about the industry from their point of view. But I've reached out a couple of times and heard no responses back as of yet. But we know they're busy. But it would be really cool to get somebody like Iron Mouse or Fillion or some of the maybe Guargura, some of the bigger names out there would be fun to have on the show, to have a chance to talk to and find out more of what the VTuber life is like for them.
Yeah, right on. That's cool.
Especially knowing how big Iron Mouse is and how much she has done for the Immune Deficiency Foundation and stuff like that. It would be great to
Did you
learn more about that.
Speaking of that, did you watch the
Chris's stream of the bike?
Yes.
Yes.
That went up recently because we watched it while we were in Vegas during some downtime.
So, some of the YouTubers that Angela and I both watch who live in Japan. One of them is Dog VA. Last year, he did a or earlier this year, he did a bikeathon
This
time.
year was number 3.
Yeah, this year was bikeathon 3, and they raised over $1 million for the IDF.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
14 days of biking across Japan. Him and Chris Broad, and then Gigik made an appearance, PewDiePie made an appearance, Premiere 2 made an appearance, and Natsuki made an appearance.
Nice.
Natsuki's hilarious.
Oh, I love Natsuki.
Dog's videos where he does the bad voice acting. I've watched those so many times. They're just like, if you need a laugh, just go there.
Yeah. His shitty cosplay ones are also good for a laugh.
I have to check. I haven't even seen those. That's cool.
I also like it when he does his like short abbreviated versions of my chat made me spend $5,000, and this is what we ended up with.
Yes. No, he's another one whose content is it started out with some Black Butler content, and then he's just gone so all over the place. But so much fun.
And John Knight in the chat has a question for Gavin, asking, what was your reaction when Funimation merged with Crunchyroll?
Yeah, that was, boy, I guess I didn't see that one coming in a lot of ways, just because Funimation was so big. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of miss my free anime on Crunchyroll, honestly, but that's how I discovered so many shows. And then, if I like something, I have no problem buying it at all. Especially as I said before, if it's something that I would want to rewatch, not a problem in the world, but it's like that part is kind of missing. And now you either have to take a stab in the dark or take a recommendation and stuff. So I do miss that. I didn't really watch that much on Funny, but yeah, it was I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe it was expected in a lot of circles, but
I've also, just thinking about it now, my wife had made a comment about that we haven't really had voice actors on in a while. And I'm wondering, when it was Funimation, voice actors were a lot more available to come on the show and stuff, where I've reached out to a few people in recent history and have gotten no responses, whether it be due to, as Angela, you like to say, life, the universe, and anything else.
Life, the universe, and everything.
But I wonder if Crunchyroll has stricter guidelines on making public appearances.
Yeah, that could be.
That could be. I also think some of it might just be scheduling.
Oh yeah, scheduling and conventions.
Yeah.
Conventions post COVID. I had a thought and I lost it.
A million different things.
Yeah, no, it could be anything, but you may I didn't even think of that, to be honest.
Because it feels like since the merger that we've had less. I mean, also I've had less time to reach out to as many people as I used to as well, especially with the new job.
And I will say that a lot of the ones we had for a long time was Genshin.
Yeah, we did have a good run of Genshin Impact voice actors, which I will still say the Sean Chiplock might be one of the best episodes ever of Anime-Zing Radio.
That's another one of that is that is me in a nutshell. That moment.
That's going to be a moment that lives on in infamy. And I think that moment is too long to actually be like clipped. We could probably make I don't think we could make it short, but we could probably try to go back and edit just that question
Just
and
that
answer
chunk.
out. But it's like a 20-minute answer to one question.
Wow.
And it was one of those I started reading the question not 100%. The words were coming out of my mouth, but my brain had kind of kicked back. About halfway through, I realized that I probably shouldn't have read this out loud, and it was too late, so I ran with it and did not expect an answer, but we got a very in-depth industry answer.
Wow.
And to give you an idea, a reference, remember when there was a lot of controversy in the voice acting world about how voice actors don't get the residual income that other actors get for the work they've done?
Okay, yeah.
It was at that point in time, and the question was about that topic.
And
Oh, wow.
because in the news recently to then, the voice actor from Bayonetta was in the news.
Gotcha. Wow.
And someone had basically likened it to that, brought up that specific scenario and asked Sean Chiplock, to address that. And yeah, you can
Angela started reading the question halfway through. She was like, crap, I don't think this should have been read out loud based on what's been going on the news. And we try to stay impartial to everything that we read and see when we're on the air.
And then you can just kind of
yes, we
Ross
know it was
taking
you.
credit, Ross. But it was one of those. It was one of those. You could definitely tell when you could definitely tell by my facial expressions that my brain just going through everything.
Yeah. When it clicked back in, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
And then it's one of those, well, what's the worst that'll happen? He'll give a non-answer, we move on and call it a day.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is what we were all expecting.
Yeah.
And then he went on a 20-minute, very in-depth answer, which surprised the hell out of everybody.
That's really cool.
So I would put that is up there, probably one of the top 5 moments in the show's history. I would put that up there. I would put our first show with Tia Ballard up there, just because the historicalness of our first show ever, and we have Tia Ballard, who's one of the an extremely amazingly talented voice actress and was very well known for a lot of different roles at the time, and still has had an amazing career. I probably put the Brina Palencia show up there when we were all dumbfounded.
Yeah.
I would make an argument for the first YouTube show as well.
Yeah.
Just for the same historical context.
I might put the Show by Rock Mashima Resh special up there, which that was kind of like it was simulcast on Blog. It was our last show on Blog Talk, and we also put it on the YouTube channel, but before we did our first official YouTube. But the fact we had 5 voice actors on the show for that was just amazing.
And back to the chat, John Knight says today is Benjamin Diskin and Steve Staley's birthday. Happy birthday. And then Ross, what I would like to put up in history is how I made everyone laugh on a Smash or Pass event with Anna Love Nectar.
Yeah. I think we've lost Aaron.
We lost Aaron a while ago.
Yeah.
No, you haven't.
Oh, he's alive.
He's alive.
He's not dead yet. He's like the Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm not dead yet.
I got better.
I feel happy. I was expecting a comment from you, Darren, when we brought up the Anna Love Nectar.
What?
Anna Love Nectar.
Oh. Oh.
Shimonetta.
Yes, of course. Sorry, I was a Blue Snow fan. Anna was not my favorite.
Oh God.
John Knight
Yeah.
says Darren is a sleeper.
Nope,
Um,
not tonight.
We got all sidetracked now.
Wait a minute. You say that like we ever had an actual track we were going on.
I will later in about 2.5 hours.
All right.
Meanwhile, I'll be in bed by then.
Everybody else will be sleeping, and I'll be starting a 12-hour day.
Rock on. Do you like the night shift thing?
It's okay. I'm just happy that like most of the trip, I'll have to probably do some work for the first few hours, so we probably won't leave Allentown until sometime between 2 and 3 a.m. and it depends on where we get held and if they'll even take us in at the first yard that we're supposed to go to.
Yeah.
The last trip, I actually watched 4 episodes of anime on the locomotive while waiting for the van to come and get us.
From the chat, Gavin, have you seen any of My Hero Academia?
I have not. I know that's, what is that, in like 5 or 6 seasons or something now?
7.
7 or 8.
Is it really? Wow.
7 is I think 7 is the current one. I kind of lost track of seasons. I'm
Current and final.
Yeah, I mean, heard good things again, just never really had the chance to get into it.
That's fair.
Define good things.
Just that it's a good show. You know, it's entertaining enough and stuff.
Really?
That's what I've heard. But I
Darren, it is entertaining.
Darren is not agreeing with this. I can tell.
Oh no, this is an argument Darren and I have had on air more than once.
It was entertaining in the beginning, and then it just look. I made it through 3.5 seasons before I got rid of it. Okay,
Darren and I dropped it about the same time.
I'll say this, Darren, go watch the villain arc. You can skip the rest.
I will watch the villain arc because the villains actually have personality.
Watch the villain arc was so well done. Right now, where I'm at is the vigilante arc.
You agree with us?
I'm not saying, I have never said it was the best quality. I said I'm enjoying it and I'm going to watch the rest of it.
I started it and then it fell into the. Now this is going to be so condescending, knowing I'm anime trash, but because it fell into the same, like, repetitive, the same redundancy as a lot of other shonens that I watch, where it feels like it's the same arc with different characters over and over and over again. As where, yes, isekai is the same.
It's the same
with different characters, same tropes. But I find isekai more enjoyable because it's different shows and some different subtleties, as opposed to the same characters doing the same things over and over.
And I can't get past the stupidity of the isekai tropes. Whereas shonen, I can get past them. I can look past a lot of them because they're fun.
You and I have a different sense of fun.
I think I would argue all three of us have a different definition of what is fun and enjoyable. But I do want to address Ross's comment about having never seen a Monty Python movie.
The only one I saw was The Holy Grail because we watched it in school.
Ross, I highly recommend Holy Grail.
I think Holy Grail would probably keep your ADHD in check or kick it to even higher gear, and that's how you'll be able to sit through it because it is so all over the place.
It is, as someone who
I haven't seen The Life of Brian.
I have. Holy Grail is better.
Yeah. And John Knight in the chat bringing up a show that
Although-
we talked about earlier.
Although I will say for Monty Python, and now for something completely different, is basically just a bunch of sketch comedy bits.
Yeah, Monty Python's Flying Circus.
But yes, yeah, the last question in the chat is, Gavin, have you watched Vending Machine?
I have not. I heard about that from you, Doug, but I have not watched it yet.
Yeah, the actual title is Reborn as a Vending Machine, I Now Wander the Dungeon. And that is a show that I have.
The vending machine has the ability to move.
Yeah, the vending machine does not have the ability to move. However, he meets a character who can carry him on her back because she's stupidly strong. Now, I've said many times on the show that when this first came out, I thought it was going to be absolutely stupid. I was going to watch it because I wanted to troll on it. And it was a lot better than I expected it to be.
That's cool.
So much so that I believe it's getting a second season, and I'm excited to watch the second season.
Mm-hmm.
Angela will not even give it a shot on principle.
We've been over this.
I still think you should watch Reincarnated as a Sword. I think you'd enjoy that because that has a really good storyline, in my opinion.
I say slime.
I've heard good things about slime. That's on my list too.
The world building is excellent. That's my main reason.
I will say, from what I have seen of slime, albeit just like little clips and things and memes, did not grab me in the slightest.
Well, you didn't watch Rimuru. Never mind. I'm not going to spoil anything. But hey, there's plenty of shonen references with Veldora.
And I had to laugh at a comment in the chat. Had seen some clips recently from some of the top 20 funniest Monty Python clips, and from Life of Brian, the name of Biggest Dickus.
God.
What was that one where the guy was sitting there arguing that he wanted to be a woman with the two others?
I don't remember. I think I saw a clip
saw
of that.
Clip.
But that's not one that I remember.
Same.
The only one I remember of wanting to be a woman was when the Lumberjack song.
No, this was the one where they were in like Greece or something, and they were sitting on the side of a monument.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They were.
I think that's Life of Brian too. I think that was also from the Life of Brian. And here we are talking Monty Python. My knowledge of Monty Python is absolutely stupid.
Hey, would you watch a Monty Python themed anime?
Possibly.
I would.
I probably would.
Honestly, now that I think about it, I'm surprised there hasn't been a King Arthur style anime.
Yeah, right.
It's called the Fate series.
Is the Fate series actually a retelling of a King Arthur's court?
Kind of. You do know DxD incorporates Arthur as well, correct?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I told you. DxD incorporates many mythologies. You meet Arthur in season 2. Do you remember him, Doug, with Valley?
Vaguely.
It revolved, and of course he holds. He has Excalibur, or it's actually Caliburn in this case, because the original Excalibur was split into 7 different fragments. But yes, the descendant of King Arthur is in the series, and then his sister LaFay is introduced later on in the novels, and then the Holy Grail is a part of the series. It actually plays a major plot line in volumes 13 and 14. You got the true line, the spear that was used to pierce Jesus Christ, and then you got what was the other Longinus that I'm thinking of? There was 13 of them, and those were in the top tier sections.
I don't think I
And then
ever
there's
looked
all
that deep
sorts of
into it.
other ancient relics that are and figures that are involved in it. Did you know that DxD also included characters from Beowulf?
Ooh. I've actually read Beowulf more than once.
You see, Grendel is one of the evil dragons that's introduced later in the series. So there's that. So I'm telling you, it incorporates more than what people realize, and unfortunately, they didn't get more. Well, there's always a potential for a fifth season for the fact that we have a spin-off series coming up, and there's a lot of theories that are suspecting they're ramping up the hype again for a fifth season announcement. So you never know. But if that were the case, we'd really start to see all these other religions come into play. The Norse gods have already made an appearance. The Olympic gods have made their appearance. The Hindu gods are on their way in. It's a smorgasbord of mythology and history and ancient and historic figures.
And see, that's the kind of stuff I really, really enjoy.
I think that's one reason why we've always said that DxD goes deep, because I didn't even realize how deep DxD went. I just thought the world building it was fantastic and the characters were fun. You just had to get past the fan service.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that for me, sometimes that's easier said than done. And I freely admit that.
Roth, we don't talk about the Fire Force reference. I'd rather talk about Excalibur from Soul Eater.
Excalibur!
But but I maintain that I am surprised that they haven't, that with all of the anime that's out there, I'm surprised they haven't done more with the the mythologies.
Well, you know that Ikitosen was done off of the Romance of Three Kingdoms, and it's another ecchi battle anime, but it has a plot line similar to Romance of the Three Kingdoms. To an extent, the original Dragon Ball was inspired by Journey to the West.
I also feel like those two stories are and those two stories I feel like are the overdone ones.
Well, maybe true, but the fact that that's where their stories originated from is still impressive in its own right.
I'm not disagreeing.
And yes, Ross, that The Sword in the Stone was one of my favorite Disney movies growing up.
Strangely enough, I didn't actually enjoy that one.
It wasn't bad.
It didn't. I think for me, it just didn't hit.
And then question for Gavin from John Knight. Have you watched the Soul Eater dub?
I have not. Yeah, that was another, like, I guess, more classic kind of thing that I completely missed out on.
That was
Well,
pretty good too.
that
I enjoyed Soul
that,
Eater.
that was one of my. I think it was like my fifth anime, and that was back when I watched dub. So I'm very familiar with the dub. I think I found the whole series at right, not right stuff. I think I found it at Suncoast or FYE. I forget which at the mall. And it was
Oh
like
wow,
30. It was like 39.99 for all 60 something episodes.
nice. I'm trying
Oh,
to
I
remember the
bought.
last time I saw Suncoast at a mall. That's a long time ago.
Same.
In a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was 2012, 2013. I want to say.
Wow, I would have put it even farther back than that, but
No,
possible.
it might have been FYE at that point, but I do remember Suncoast because whenever we went to the local mall, it was right across from the Verizon store, and that's where I kind of used to hang out because my mom and dad would always go into Sears whenever it was time for back to school shopping. Verizon was on the corner, and Suncoast was like 2 or 3 doors down.
Nice.
Yep. See, my best friend from high school worked in a Suncoast, and that's how she got her anime, was by using her employee discount and importing the stuff that she wanted.
That's cool.
And that's another hobby of yours, Gavin, that you enjoy is going to the malls, especially of the dying breed.
Yeah, we're running out of them too. More and more just end up getting demolished, closed permanently and stuff. I'm running out of fodder for my Instagram. That's
Uh,
what I usually post there.
Doug,
I'm in North Carolina. We have several that are still in operation, but only Jeff.
actually, Doug, this is a question for you. Pertaining
Okay.
to malls specifically, because there was a mall I used to go to when I was down in the Philly area for college. Um, is the King of Prussia Mall still in
Yes.
existence,
Yeah.
and how
Yes.
dead is it?
King of Prussia is still in existence, if I remember correctly. I think that has a bougie section of the mall, which has all the like high end stores. Because I
It did.
remember my wife
It
and
did back in 2001. So,
it's still there. It has the stores for everyday people, and then it has stores for the people who can afford like Timex and Louis Vuitton and like all the really high end stores where they have like a security guard that stands out front, almost like a bouncer that you feel like you have to check in if you even want to go through.
um, I
And that's as of last school year because my wife and I had gone out there while my daughter was in school. We made a day trip to check it out because it was supposed to be one of the larger malls in the area.
Yep. That's what I
at
was
the
gonna say. It is,
time at the time I was in college, it was labeled as the largest retail mall in America.
I think Mall of America may be bigger in square
It,
footage.
bigger in square footage, however, in the middle of that is an amusement park.
Yeah, that's true. That's true if you take that out. Yeah.
And it's retail. King of Prussia has larger is larger in terms of retail
Just the
space.
retail space, yeah. Mall of
At least
America is
from
pretty
what
cool though.
I have not been to the Mall of America. Up here, the malls are up here in Greater Boston. The malls are a dying breed.
Yeah, they kind of are in so many places.
Um,
Destiny USA in Syracuse. It used to be a Carousel Mall. Not they changed it to Destiny USA. When I was living in Syracuse, they were working on they wanted to make it the largest mall in America, bigger than the one you were just talking about with the amusement park and everything. Last
Oh,
time
Mall of
I was,
America.
yeah, no, last time I was there was a couple of years ago, and they had added a wing on that wasn't there when I was living up there, and it was 3 floors. On in this area included an indoor go-kart track, a Dave and Buster's, a Round One, a rock climbing area, an area that like you got strapped into a harness and you could like walk on ropes like 3 stories above the ground and climbing stuff. It was I told my wife, I'm like, we could go to Syracuse and spend one day at the mall and not see every store and not see everything that there was to see.
And a random question from Ross for even more off the rails nonsense. Who did it better for faraway quotes? Was it Star Wars, the original Star Wars, Spaceballs, or Galaxy Quest?
Trying to remember what the quotes were for Spaceballs and
Spaceballs is just. Don't get me wrong. I love Spaceballs. It is classic Mel Brooks.
Yes.
I will say Spaceballs only because I have not seen the other two.
You have not seen the original Star Wars?
I have never seen a single Star Wars movie.
No
That's
kidding.
sad.
I was a Star Trek fan, not Star Wars. Star Wars did not interest me. Star Trek did.
And you know what, Doug? That falls right in line because guess what? Star Wars was my childhood. Star Trek didn't interest me in the slightest.
So that's my excuse. I have not sat down and seen a Harry Potter movie in its entirety, but I've seen more clips from Harry Potter than I have Star Wars. But I did see Spaceballs and thought that was absolutely fantastic.
Spaceballs is fantastic.
Yeah,
and Ross, I am cautiously Ross is saying that it's getting a sequel. I am cautiously optimistic and will believe it when I see it.
Right.
And is it still Mel Brooks?
Allegedly.
I did like a lot of Mel Brooks stuff.
Same.
Yeah.
Robin Hood Men in Tights was hysterical.
Blazing Saddles, which you could never get away with today.
He got away with a lot of stuff back then that you can't get away with today.
That's true.
I mean, how many old movies and old Disney cartoons and stuff have we seen in recent history that they had to nerf to be able to air it without the fear of offending somebody?
The problem,
Probably some of my favorite clips were some of the old World War II cartoons.
I mean, Ross is saying Men in Tights is best Mel Brooks movie. I feel like the problem is there are some Disney Mel Brooks movies that if you take the context of today, yes, it is very much inappropriate. But you have to remember a lot of them are a product of their time.
Well, that's just it. I think that's one thing that people nowadays lose sight of is when this stuff came out. Like we've even brought up Ghost Stories on the show many a times because it's probably one of the funniest anime dubs of all time, especially knowing it was improv. Was it Ghost? I think it was Ghost Stories. Yeah, it was Ghost Stories.
Yeah. And there's no way in hell you could do something like that today.
No.
And I just remember.
And we got that straight from Greg Ayers during a press conference.
There's like.
I think as a whole, we need to stop trying to rewrite the history books to make it seem better for what it is now.
Oh God! All right.
We are now.
I'm gonna. John Knight's question first. Gavin, have you seen Star Wars movies?
Yeah, I mean, that was. I think that's really what got me into movies in the beginning was seeing Star Wars. I think 7 times in the theater. I mean, I was all about that. And then Empire was even more. I mean, I loved Empire Strikes Back. Jedi, I think I was kind of growing a little older and like kind of out of it at that point. I did see the prequels. Did not bother with the sequel trilogy. Will not bother with the sequel trilogy. Thank you very much.
I will actually argue that the sequel trilogy is better than the prequels.
I don't
However,
know.
that's setting a very low bar.
Yeah.
I absolutely despised the episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
7, 8, and 9. 7, 8, and 9 were not as bad. Again, very low bar.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, my recommendation would be to go and watch Rogue One.
I've heard mixed things on that.
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It's a really good it is a really good standalone, and it basically leads into episode 4. It's kind of it basically gives you the backstory for aspects of episode 4.
Gotcha.
And it was really well done in my opinion.
That's cool.
And this ties into Ross's commentary. Going back, I'm gonna read this as he typed it. So, you're all gonna hate me for this question. Mel Brooks or Ghost Stories, which would be not be good today than the other? And
which would be more offensive?
I think that's where Ross is going with that, and I'm not entirely sure. I think that would 100% depend on which Mel Brooks movie we were comparing it to.
Yeah.
Because
I think it would depend on which Mel Brooks movie.
Because something like Blazing Saddles? Or there's another, like something like Spaceballs or Men in Tights. Probably I would say Ghost Stories. But something like Blazing Saddles or what's the other one I'm thinking of? I don't remember. It's a toss-up.
One thing, like, I put Spaceballs sense of humor kind of up there with like the old George Carlin comedy, where nothing was off limits to be made fun of.
And there's a lot of truth to his comedy if you actually listen to what he says.
That's what made George Carlin a comedic genius. Is he took everyday life and put stuff into perspective that a lot of people didn't think about, and then when you make the connections, you're laughing because you're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't think about that."
And I think like stand-up comedy is something that I typically no, Ross, not Young Frankenstein. It might be History of the World, but
yeah, we really do go all over the place, don't we?
Yeah, no, but stand-up comedy as a whole is something I'm very, very selective about. Comedy as a whole, I just typically don't usually enjoy. Like my sense of humor is very dry.
That's why she likes her British stuff.
I actually do watch a lot of British content these days, but
have you seen Are You Being Served?
No, I've seen bits and pieces.
I used to love that show. I used to think that show was very good.
But
that's another sidetrack.
But
that never happens, right, Gavin?
Never, ever.
But no. Comedians these days, especially in the internet era, everyone's so afraid of being canceled. But also but at the same time, they're also trying to push all the buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And much like and I think what most people fail to realize is you got to take stuff, you got to remember that when things were released. And if you take it as a product of its time, you shouldn't necessarily be offended. Be offended if that was.
No, this is 2024. Everyone's in their feelings, and you must convey to what they believe. That level of logic no longer exists, Angela, as much as it pains me to say.
There's a lot of there's a reaction I want to. There's things I want to say to that, but because we're live, I'm not going to. I'm going to actually keep it.
All I'll say is Bofuri is what I was hoping SAO would have been. That's another one you should check out, Gavin. Bofuri. I don't want to get hurt, so I maxed out my defense.
That show is so fun.
That's it. That's another that I think there's probably maybe five shows total that all three of us have watched and enjoyed.
Bofuri, Spy Family, Dress Up Darling, and I think that might be it. Actually,
are you sure? Are you sure it was 5?
I took an estimate because you were supposed to watch.
I was supposed to watch Voice Actor Radio. I know. Quit beating me up about
it. How long did you beat me up about? Like 4 or 5 other shows before I actually watched it?
That's a long time. You're right. But no, I know. And the biggest irony to all that is that it was my idea.
And there, Doug, on that note, then you should leave me alone with Vending Machine.
No, I just pick on you about Vending Machine for the reaction. I know you'll never watch it.
Okay, they're right.
That's strictly a reaction getter.
Okay, I'll give you that.
It's kind of like every now and then when I bring up other shows. It's simply for the reaction. Freeman, I think that you will actually give a shot to when you have time.
At this
that's why
point,
that's why I don't hound you about it.
And before we get into shameless plugs and good nights from the chat, Ross wants to know, Gavin, have you seen Dress Up Darling?
I've not, no, but I'll have to put that one on the list too.
No, I'm gonna save that for after we get off the air because I got something to say about Dress Up Darling along with several other rom-coms. Other than Rent a Girlfriend will never measure up to it because it's been the center of comedy in comparison to like 8 other series.
Rent a Girlfriend, I lost interest in season 2.
The title alone was enough. The title and the brief synopsis alone was enough to make me go, not for me, next.
And the craziest thing about it was that actually goes on in Japan. You can rent family and members and stuff.
I know.
Rent family members, rent a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
I'm very much aware of this.
Anybody out there that's interested, you could rent Darren.
Darren says nothing. He's like,
I was waiting for you to throw me under the bus with that.
That's okay. Well, technically, I'm the only one that's even eligible if you really want to get into it.
There's things.
I'm the only one that's single.
There's things.
And he also has a business where people technically rent him out to mow their lawns.
Exactly.
Yep. You know what?
And Ross says he doesn't mind being rented.
On that lovely note, given what time it is, why don't we jump ahead to shameless plugs?
Because we're having too much fun.
Yep.
This is why
Golly.
Gavin waits every so often to come on. He can only handle so much of our nonsense.
I cannot take it anymore, Captain. Just kidding.
Exactly.
Just kidding. It's all good.
Gavin, next time you're at are you planning on coming to an event on the actual East Coast that is further east than Pennsylvania?
No, I really cut back on cons a couple years ago. We used to do, boy, at our height, we were doing like 33, 34 shows a year. And there's a lot of reasons why I ended up cutting back. One of the biggest, though, is just the economy. People have less spending money and stuff, and everything's getting more expensive. And a lot of the smaller shows, even though I really enjoy doing smaller and mid-sized shows, they just end up not being, economically as feasible,
100%.
I'm sorry that Anime-Zing was somewhat on the short list, but at the same time it wasn't. Didn't you say it was like a slight performance difference?
The funny thing with Anime-Zing, the whole reason I stopped doing that, because it was the same weekend as NakaCon, which has been historically one of my absolute best shows ever. So they moved. Actually, they used to be back in March. They moved to Memorial Day weekend, so it now conflicts with like everything. Early summer.
Well,
They're moving back though. Next year, they're moving back to March.
oh, so I'll see you next year.
I don't know. Since that happened, I've heard mixed things about Anime-Zing. Like the whole there's another big show in Raleigh now. I can't think of what it's called.
GalaxyCon?
Yeah, probably GalaxyCon. Like that kind of took over. Like that's the big show there now. So I'm like, would I go and do that?
It is, but the problem with that is you when you go to GalaxyCon, you lose your fan base per se. I mean,
Okay.
yes, you get expanded into other fandoms, but it's not they're not the same animal like at all. And honestly, I think you'd find your more niche audience at Anime-Zing than GalaxyCon.
Yeah.
And I will say, from like people spending money point, I don't know what the guest list for Anime-Zing looks like, but GalaxyCon had such a huge variation of celebrities there. Not just voice actors, but you had professional wrestlers, you had models, you had actors. So you're competing with for people's money against a probably a wider variety of celebrities, as opposed to people who want to just get the anime merch.
Yeah.
And also the vendor area is definitely slightly more commercialized. The only like true smaller tables you'll see is in Artist Alley.
Gotcha. Okay. Duly noted. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, I don't know what I'll be adding on. Right now, I've just been cutting things back. So
I mostly ask because I'd love to actually see you and talk to you in person.
yeah, right on.
Okay.
Oh, and they fixed the Wi-Fi in the convention center to where it actually works. Just so you know,
it actually works. Period. Yeah. Oh, I remember that well. Running up the stairs every time I had to like run a credit card. That was always fun.
Yeah, you ain't got to do that no more.
Well, that's good.
Plus, they improved the signal a little bit.
That's cool. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
On that note, we're just about out of time. So, of course, we want to give Gavin a chance to promote himself, his businesses, and anywhere you can find him. You know it as our shameless plugging section. Gavin, the floor is yours.
I will keep this short and sweet. HomecircleMedia.com is the anime online store for all the fun stuff. Everything else musically is kind of in between right now. It's kind of like a calm before the storm period. Midnight Syndicate just announced that we're working on a new album that's going to be due out next year, but it's really in the beginning stages of it. So, I mean, I can't even really tell you anything more than that. So, yeah, that's all I got for right now. And come and see us at one of the upcoming cons. We're going to be at MitsuriCon next weekend. Colossal East the following weekend. We'll be at Colossal North up in the Wisconsin Dells in November. I don't remember the dates exactly. And that's it for the year.
One suggestion I might make for the website, too, is to possibly put up a list of conventions where people might be able to see you in person.
I thought about that, but there is I'll call it a safety security issue. A lot of vendors don't like to do that on Facebook, in fact, for that same reason.
Okay.
But, good thoughts.
On that note, we want to thank Gavin for joining us tonight. Of course, thank you to Angela and Darren for being amazing co-hosts and manning the ship when I'm not here. Of course, thank you to all the amazing viewers who tuned in and all the listeners who tune into the podcasts every week. We love you guys. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do the show. Ross, John Knight, Winry, Jeremy, the game playing idiots that were in here, all of the people who come in on a regular basis. Thank you so much for your support.
Love you all. That's why we do this.
Until next week, when I probably will not be here due to railroad scheduling, but Angela and Darren will be taking the reins. Might be a little bit of a late start depending on Angela's schedule when she can get back, but they should be having more fun and chaos here for more Anime-Zing Radio next week. Also, I may stream a game during the week at some point, depending on what my schedule looks like as well. So keep an eye for the random pop-up game streams that we do. Until then, have a wonderful week. Enjoy the anime. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you again for more Anime-Zing Radio right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.